So I told you yesterday about repo madness, what was happening in the banking community. And if you paid attention yesterday on what was, what we were talking about and what was happening, there was a problem at the banks where they have this overnight lending system. And all of the banks have to have a certain amount of cash on hand. And they do this every night. They look and say, how much money do we have in the bank? You know what? Call Citibank and ask them if we can borrow, $10 billion. We'll sell them this and we'll buy it back tomorrow morning. Happens all the time. Banks loan each other money all the time. Now, back in 2008, Bear Stearns started asking for money. And the other banks were like, now you're asking for an awful lot of money. I'm not really sure you're too healthy. And so they started going to what was called the discount window, where they could go to the Fed in the middle of the night. But nobody wanted to go to the discount window because the discount window was it was the walk of shame. If you went to that window, the other banks would know that you were in trouble. So Bear Stearns went to the discount window, and the Fed said, "Okay, we'll write you some cash, okay, just to keep them afloat, just to keep everything going. But don't worry, nothing to see here, nothing to see here." As the crash started to happen, there was a credit crunch, not with you. The banks, everything seemed normal, kind of like, right now, where everything seemed normal. But at night, the banks were in full-fledged panic because they had to have a certain amount of money in the bank every night to cover everything. And what normally goes on is Bank of America will call Citibank, or Citibank will call JP Morgan Chase or whatever, and they'll work it out. And they say, hey, can you just transfer some of your money, and I'm going to transfer this asset over to you, and then tomorrow we'll reverse that. Not a problem. Until every bank in 2008 was freaking out because none of them had enough money to cover their expenses. And the first sign of trouble is the overnight interest rate, which should be 1.75. The overnight interest rate when the bank goes and says, hey, I want to buy a new house. Except what they're really saying is, hey, I don't have enough money in my vault to cover the stuff that I just bought. Can I borrow some money for the overnight? And the banks say, sure, 1.75. The credit crunch became so bad as of Monday that the interest rate that the banks were selling each other these loans for the overnight was 10%. Imagine you borrow $10 billion from another bank in the overnight, and you have to pay 10% on that money. That's not going to go well or last long. And the reason why it was 10% was because no one had enough money. They were all calling each other. Hey, could you loan me some money? I don't know. I can't. Of course, I'll find it if you pay me 10% in the morning. That's what was happening. So the Federal Reserve knew this. And so they just casually made an announcement. Hey, nothing to see here, nothing to worry about, but we're going to loan $55 billion to the banks tonight. And we're just going to do it tonight. Well, it came back that the banks needed $65 billion for the night. Then the next night, the Fed decided to do it again, and so they offered $65 billion. Well, they needed $75 billion. Every time they opened the, quote, discount window, every time they made these purchases of assets. By the way, they're not paying them back the next day. They're just buying these assets. Every time they did that, they needed more. So they kept doing it. Remember, this is only going to happen Monday night. They did it again last night. They've done it Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and they're going to do it again tonight. So that's where we were. That's what I told you yesterday. This is so critically important that you pay attention. So where are we? Well, the $75 billion per day from the Fed extended last night into day 4. We are now at $350 billion that has been injected into the U.S. investment banks in 4 days, and the banks are still asking for more. The markets are not functioning. If the banks need $75 billion a day in new cash just for their day-to-day operations, J.P. Morgan Chase has taken $52 billion in cash and new capital from the Fed in 3 days. That is 22% of what the entire company is worth. That's their market cap, 22%. And they borrowed that cash or took that cash in 3 days. The world's largest investment bank needing $12.5 billion every day in newly printed cash from the Fed to provide cash on the books. In 2007, the initial bid from Lehman Brothers was $620 million. 6 days later, a 120-year-old company, 11,200 employees, 8.9 million investors, worth $14 billion in market cap, was gone. We have a problem here. We have a real problem. In 4 days, they have given out almost half of what we argued about. We argued all week long, that week when we had to rush this through. It was the thing that caused the Tea Party really to stand up. Wait a minute, you're bailing these banks out. What about everybody else? They're doing it now quietly, and they've already spent half of the cash that they spent for TARP, and they did that in 4 days. And no one is talking about it. There is a real problem with the banks. We're not talking just Lehman Brothers now. We are talking all of the banks. But wait, let's talk about blackface. Wait, there's rain in Houston. You know, it's climate hysteria day. We've got to get Trump's tax returns in California. Oh, we've got to get all of the ARs back. Don't you even say that we're talking about confiscating ARs. We're not talking about that. Yes, you are. No, you're not. Yes, you are. No, you aren't. Meanwhile, the banks are in trouble. Are you awake? Last night, Marianne Williamson gave the answer of the decade. This is exactly what is happening in all of our society. Last night, Marianne Williamson was asked by a college student, "What is your problem? What is your problem with nuclear energy?"
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Ms. Williamson. Thank you for taking my question. My name is Emily Berry, and I'm a student from the University of Maryland College Park. I'm studying government and politics and economics. So you say that in your environmental crisis plan that you want the United States to stop all use of nuclear energy. What do you identify as the problems with nuclear energy, and what do you say to those who think it simply gets a bad reputation?
What was the last thing you said? What do I say to those who what?
What are your issues with nuclear energy?
Well, I know Germany had said at one point, we're just going no nuclear. But then when they said no nuclear, there was a problem because they had a hard time keeping up with the other standards that they agreed to.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what's your problem? Mm-hmm.
What is wrong with that?
Yes, she has no idea. Listen.
If something goes wrong with nuclear energy.
If something goes wrong.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I don't think people have really stopped to take in the horror.
The horror of
See,
what
we
might...
need an integrated politics. We need to go beyond hard data. We need to go beyond just thinking about the facts.
Go
I
beyond
want you to
facts.
think about this with your heart.
I think with your heart.
Something goes wrong there.
Yeah.
What happens?
What are we even talking about?
What are we
What are
talking
we?
about?
How can
I
we
think
even
that's
consider it?
that's really what we
And
have to talk about.
so what? Maybe we'd all
Maybe we'd all.
Be
be a little warmer,
a little warmer,
cool.
a little cooler.
I mean, Americans, we have to decide.
We have to decide.
That's the problem I have with nuclear.
That's the problem. There is no problem. What are you talking about? France has 70% of their power coming from nuclear energy. Everybody says, let's be more like France. There is no problem with nuclear energy. America, you got to start thinking with your heart. America, I am telling you right now, wake up. Wake up and stop listening to this nonsense, this babbling. It doesn't make any sense. Stop thinking with your frickin' heart and use the brain that God also gave you. These people make no sense. None. They're not even trying anymore to give you a good argument. They're now talking about everybody's going to get free health care, free housing, free education. Free? It's not free. Well, we're the richest nation in the world. We're the richest nation in the world. Are we really? Are we really? We have more debt than anyone has ever had at any time in all of human history. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but mom and dad are struggling to make things work. Your business down the street is making ends meet just barely. Oh yeah, the fat cats in Washington, the banks are doing it because they can do something that you can't do, and that is borrow freshly printed money. They can go to the banks and to the Fed and to the Treasury and say, we're too big to fail. But you can't. You can't. And no socialist program will get you out of this. Only clear thinking, only facts, only actual mathematics that don't give a flying crap how you got to the answer. If it's not right, it's not right. America, wake up and prepare yourself for times we have not seen since the 1930s. Sorry, I don't mean to yell at you. I'm yelling at everyone else. I know you get it. I'll tell you what you can do here in just a second. Hey, have you thought about selling your house? If you have too much house, you might want to think about selling your house. I'm just saying. Get yourself into a house that you can afford, that you could weather the storm in. realestateagentsitrust.com. Real estate agents I trust. It is hard to find, some Joe Schmo real estate agent with a briefcase of soon-to-be broken promises and uninflated balloons. It's really hard to find that guy, isn't it? Oh, maybe because I've hired them every single time. The truth is, you need the type of real estate that is not all too common. You need somebody who really knows what they're doing, is an expert in it, has a long track record, and has best practices in his briefcase, has unbroken promises, the guy who's going to get your house sold. We found those agents in your area, and we won't recommend somebody in your area if we don't have somebody who is the best. We want to make sure that you get the most value out of your home and you get the best value going into the next. realestateagentsitrust.com. This is not a commercial for some company. This is my company. realestateagentsitrust.com. realestateagentsitrust.com. 10-second station ID. I hate when I get like this. I just can't take the news of the day. I just can't take it. There's nobody saying anything that is actually going to help people. Here's what it is. This is really, really bad for the collective because it will only help those, it will only hurt those banks that are already struggling. But those banks put you as the last person to get their money. If you have money on deposit at a bank, because when we did TARP, they did something else. They changed you from one of the first people to get paid. So you can go in and George Bailey can say, wait a minute, your money is here and your money is here. I want $282. You can't get your money with the banks. You're the last one to get paid. Now, you'll get it through the FDIC, which will mean more printed money. Nobody is talking to you about the stock market is doing well only because that's the place we see inflation, because the only people that have the money are these banks and others that can get the free cash. They're people like the sovereign funds because they are counting on America. It's the only place they can get a return on their money. And so they're counting on America. And they're putting all of that money into our stock market. And everybody is buying their stuff back because, why? They have the money. Your money is in the stock market. Your money is in bonds. Your money is in banks. If we go through another banking collapse, socialism will be in our future, our very near future. America will change overnight, and those who say they are against socialism today will be for socialism tomorrow. All of our politicians will not want to be remembered as Herbert Hoover. They will all want to be FDR. And they will say it's just temporary, but it will not be temporary.
Wait, they want to be like the guy who extended the Depression for 12 years?
Yes.
They want to be like him? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, they will.
Is that amazing that they want to be like that guy?
You need your money in a local credit union. You need your money in a local bank. You need your money in a local bank that is not affiliated with these big banks. Please do your own homework. And stop listening to the nonsense that is out there. Stop. Climate change may require elimination of car ownership. Oh, really? That's a candidate, Andrew Yang. We've got all kinds of great stories today. Burger King removing ham from the word hamburger to avoid offending Muslims. What the hell are you even talking about? Get over it. Here's an idea. Educate yourself enough to know that hamburger has no ham in it. Good God, what's wrong with us?